The evidence is here. Our planet is indeed being visited by intelligences greater than man's. They travel in spaceships, in flying saucers.
But what are the possibilities of the future? It seems almost certain that if other beings more advanced than ourselves do inhabit other sectors of the universe, then it's quite probable there will come that day, that moment in time, when official contact will be made. Let's look at an incident that might happen in the future, or perhaps could have happened already. The premise is that contact is made by extraterrestrial beings with representatives of the United States Air Force at Holloman Air Force Base in the deserts of New Mexico. The day is clear. It's about 5:32 a.m. at Holloman Air Force Base.
Part of the grappling with the UFO mystery is going to lead to the conclusion that space is not an impermeable and insurmountable barrier to biology, that in fact planets are islands, and life does occasionally wash in from distant places, and if conditions are correct, can take hold. However, let me say, in the UFO phenomenon, we are dealing, or we presuppose that we are dealing, not simply with the phenomenon of extraterrestrial biology, but with the phenomenon of extraterrestrial intelligence. And this is a hackle-raising notion.
We're dealing with more than mushroom spores.
We're dealing with more than mushroom spores, at least as ordinarily conceived. And I think the thing that has been overlooked in almost all discussions of extraterrestrial contact is how strange the extraterrestrial is likely to be. It isn't going to be a friendly elfin little feller with a beating heart of gold. It isn't even going to be some of the more extravagantly grotesque creations out of Hollywood. Conditions and time spans in the universe are long enough and varied enough that I would bet that the real task with extraterrestrial intelligence will be to recognize it, you see.
And what other types of aliens you met?
Okay, there's the female. There's the insect-like being that they say resemble a praying mantis. Mm-hmm. There is the gray, the little guys. There is this tall, thin being with like a knob on the back of his head, extremely tall, extremely thin. Yes. He seems to be like in charge. Then there have been some people who look human, but they're not human.
How can you tell that they are not human even though they look human?
It's that there is a feeling that you just, like, man, you're not like anyone I've ever seen. They may look very Nordic or whatever, but you know they're not human.
What can they be? Do you think that they are a kind of artificial human, like in robots?
No, I don't think so, no.
So, can we say that human but from another planet?
Either from another planet or from another dimension. I honestly don't know where they're from. The only thing that I do know is that when I grew up later, when I was in New York, I would go to sleep, and right before I would go to sleep, the wall would open up. There would be an opening in the wall. It's like all the atoms were just pushed back on them, and they would come through.
How many of them?
Usually, I would say 3, 4, maybe a couple of the insect-like beings, the woman for sure, a couple of grays, and even the little hairy guy.
So, did they ever tell you why they have been abducting you, why they are interested in you?
$64 question. I have no idea. I really don't. It's like there are times when I wish they would show up, and I say, please sit down and let's talk. I want to know. But nothing. It's like it's like you're given so much information, but only a little, and you've got to work at it to find out for yourself. They just don't tell you.
Did you ever ask?
Yes, I think I did. But what I remember is that they told me, I was so taken back by it that I'm not sure but I don't, at the same time, don't remember exactly what they said. But I had a feeling it dealt with preserving mankind.
And now we've come to the conclusion that abduction, of their involvement with human beings, that this is the center of the entire UFO phenomenon, and that actually when people have UFO sightings, it's very possible that what they're seeing is something on its way to or from an abduction of somebody. They're not just flying around up there, they are interested very profoundly in human beings.
I believe now that the reported and confirmed details in all of these reports are strong evidence against accepting consciously recalled alien encounter reports at face value because of the illusion capabilities, because of the screens, and because of the virtual reality technology that we have witnessed being manifest by these entities. I believe that if we build our theories on such information, the consciously reported information only, we're building on sand, on illusions that the aliens create for us, and I think to confuse and mislead us. Now, this is not to say, however, that all alien encounters are virtual reality events, because there is also plenty of very strong evidence for the physical nature of many of these encounters. So to be perfectly objective, the definition of abduction would have to include any event or scenario that is generated externally for the targeted person, whether it be a physical encounter, a virtual reality scenario, or a telepathic contact. Now, a second important discovery from Ted's investigation, and this was important at least for me, was the possibility of cloned human bodies produced by these abductors. And that's the second thing I'd like to talk about briefly today. In the mid-1970s, a memory of a childhood event surfaced in Ted's mind during the night while he was sleeping. And in an altered state of consciousness, he got out of bed and went to his typewriter in the middle of the night and wrote out this memory as a story. In 1991 and 92, when Ted and Barbara began a series of regressions, it popped up in these events, this scenario that Ted had recalled as a story, but a very different version of that basic story emerged. A version in which he went through what can only be called a horrific experience, in which his original body he perceived as being killed and taken away, and his essence, for lack of a better word, we could call it soul energy or whatever term one would like to use, was contained temporarily in a black box, placed on a counter, and transferred shortly thereafter into a cloned copy of young Ted's body. This was his perception of what occurred with him, and this is the first time I had ever heard of such things really in any detail.
Let us assume that our small planet Earth and all its human inhabitants were under surveillance by an advanced extraterrestrial intelligence. In the same way that various countries on Earth spy on each other for their own security purposes, let us theorize that this advanced intelligence also keeps watch of Earth and its primitive inhabitants, sort of like keeping an eye on the trashy neighbors in the interstellar neighborhood. Perhaps if such an advanced intelligence might do more than simply maintain a hands-off covert reconnaissance of our world, what if such an advanced intelligence might even interact with our societies?
I'm convinced after 36 years of study and investigation that the evidence is overwhelming that planet Earth is being visited by extraterrestrial spacecraft. That means some UFOs are alien spacecraft. Most are not. I don't care about those. Right. Second, we're dealing with a kind of cosmic Watergate. That means some few people in the government know what's going on, not everybody. Third, none of the arguments made by the debunkers like Carl Sagan and Phil Klass who never refer to the relevant evidence, stand up under careful scrutiny. And fourth, we're dealing with the biggest story of the millennium. Visits to planet Earth, successful cover-up of the best data, the bodies in the wreckage from 1947, for 47 years.
Why?
I don't speak for the government, but I'll give you 5 reasons. Yeah. One, we want to figure out how they work to make wonderful weapons delivery and defense systems. They can fly circles around anything we got flying. Rule number 1 for security, if you set up a secret project, is you can't tell your friends without telling your enemies. They watch Larry King, too. Second problem, the other side of the coin, what if the other guy figures out how they work before you do? How do you defend against them? You don't want them to know you know, they know. Third, if there were to be an announcement made by highly trusted individuals that indeed some UFOs are alien spacecraft, what would happen? We can imagine church attendance would go up, mental hospital admissions would go up, stock market would go down. But I think the biggest thing that would happen, based on 600 college lectures, is that the younger generation, which was never alive when there wasn't a space program, would immediately push for a new view of ourselves, instead of as Americans, Chinese, Canadians, as Earthlings.
And this plot is conceived to be hidden for these 5 reasons. By whom?
I didn't give you 2 of them. Apparently the intelligence agencies have been running the show for a long time.
I work in this deep, deep level. I'm able to contact the subconscious directly. Many other of the UFO investigators are staying in what is called the emotional level. They don't go into the level where you find the real information. In the emotional level, the person may be remembering some snatches of an event, or they may be having dreams, and all they can remember is that something horrible happened, is the way they interpret it. They think it's something very evil or menacing. And a lot of the investigators, they keep them at that level, and there's a great deal of fear based there. But when I take the person back and they are on board a craft, I go beyond that to where they're no longer frightened, to go to the subconscious and say what is really occurring. And when I do that, we find there's a whole other set of circumstances, because the subconscious knows what really is going on.
And this would have been about 9 or 10 in the morning. On this detour, where they saw very little other traffic, all of a sudden the car was pulled off the road. He was driving, the car stopped, and consciously he remembered, I won't go into the details, he remembered the object approaching the car, very, very large, with the silhouettes of figures in the window of the UFO. He said it was maybe 40 or 50 feet off the ground. And they have no more memory except another memory from a later time of the thing off in the distance and leaving. And when they got back together in their minds and collected themselves, they realized it was getting dark. It was nighttime. And the incident had started 9 or 10 in the morning. There's a huge period of missing time. All 4 of them went immediately to a motel. They spent the whole night awake, talking in a great deal of confusion, self-doubt, fear, everything else. He's had a number of experiences, but this is the important point about this. And as I say, he has been backed up by the other 3 witnesses in this case on all the details. But he has suffered a lot of psychological difficulties, emotional difficulties, and in particular, he's had a lot of problems dealing with strangers, dealing with people he's not familiar with, which is a kind of a difficult thing because, in effect, he's in sales. That's the nature of his business.
We've also heard about strange underground workings and the like that are happening in this country, and they're happening out in Australia, and they're happening out in Russia, in the Caucasus Mountains, and they're happening across the United States.
When I regained consciousness, I was looking up at a light shining down on me from the ceiling. I could tell I was leaning up on a bed or a table or something because the ceiling was close. I was in a lot of pain. I couldn't quite bring myself totally awake.
What type of pain? What parts of your body?
It was kind of like in my head, but just all over it. I can't describe it. that I was in the hospital, and I was looking up at the ceiling, and I didn't make any attempt to move because of the pain I was in, but I felt something laying across my chest, and I looked down, and it was sort of a flat thing that kind of curved across like that, and I couldn't focus my eyes very well, but I looked beyond the top edge of the thing that was laying across me, and I saw two men leaning over me. They weren't really men. They were a lot like they were a lot like men, but they weren't quite human.
What did they physically look like?
They were they had kind of underdeveloped features and no hair of any kind, and they were dressed in kind of a brownish orange.
지구요, 여러분, 두려워 마십시오. 여러분 존재는 사라지지 않습니다. 존재하는 만물 또한 사라지지 않습니다. 여러분은 영원한 존재이며 여러분은 무한한 존재입니다. 여러분이 죽음이라 부른 두려움은 다른 삶을 향해 나아가는 하나의 새로운 출발점이 되는 것입니다. 여러분은 감추고 쌓아놓을 그 어떠한 이유도 없는 것입니다. 여러분은 여러분이 가진 모든 것을 필요로 하는 여러분의 형제에게 주문을 해서 여러분은 여러분 자신 속에서 무한히 영원히 공급받을 수 있는 영원한 존재임을 여기서 밝혀두는 바입니다. 그렇습니다. 예, 병체는 밝은 성광에 긴 빛의 꼬리를 끌면서 서서히 지나지고 있군요. 예, 그렇습니다. 여러분이 보시는 이 비행체는 우주의 다른 차원에서 여기 지구를 찾아온 것입니다. 예. 그렇습니다.
You and I in a little toy shop buy a bag of balloons with the money we got. Set them free at the break of dawn till one by one they were gone. Back at base, bugs in the software flash the message, something's out there, floating in the summer sky. 99 red balloons go by. 99 red balloons floating in the summer sky, panicking, it's red alert. Something here from somewhere else. War machines spring to life. Open up one eager eye, focusing it on the sky. 99 red balloons go by. 99 Decision Street. 99 ministers meet to worry, super scurry. Call the troops out in a hurry. This is what we waited for. This is it, boys, this is war. The president is on the line. 99 red balloons go by. 99 nights of the air, ride super high-tech jet fighters. Everyone's a superhero, everyone's a Captain Kirk, with orders to identify, to clarify and classify, scramble in the summer sky. 99 red balloons go by. There's 99 red balloons go by. 99 dreams I have had in each and every red balloon. It's all over and I'm standing pretty in the dust that was a city. If I could find a souvenir just to prove the world was here, and here it is, a red balloon. I think of you and let it go.